fact, she is very useless, selling her body to men, all because of money. Very useless girl. Chica, can you stop this your street girl lifestyle and focus on becoming a good girl?
What if I tell you that sometimes we shouldn't mock or laugh at people's lifestyle or the way they're living their lives? Because everyone has a story behind he or she's life that makes them to choose the way they live their life. Watch carefully as this story teaches the important lessons for us to stop mocking people in the street. In the busy city of Asaba, Delta State, everyone knew Chica, but nobody knew her story. They only saw what she had become, not what life had done to her. Chica was 23 years old. She dressed in short skirts and tight tops that showed too much of her body. Her hair was always different colors. She lived in a small room behind Mama Nkechi's shop near the main market. Every day, people whispered about her. Every night, she walked the streets looking for men who would pay her money for her body. She smoked cigarettes openly, not caring who saw her. She dressed in short skirts and tight tops that showed too much of her body. Her hair was always different colors, sometimes red, sometimes blonde, sometimes purple. She wore makeup that was too bright and shoes with very high heels. The mothers in Asaba used Chica as a warning to their daughters. Don't be like Chica, they would say. Study your books, go to school. Don't end up like that useless girl who sleeps with men for money. The women at the market laughed at her when she passed by. See this one, they would mock. No father, no mother, no future. Just a street girl with no shame. Even the young girls who were still in secondary school looked down on Chica. They felt better than her because they were going to school. They thought education would save them from becoming like her. But Chica never answered them. She just walked past with her head up, smoking her cigarette, acting like their words did not touch her. But deep inside, every insult was like a knife in her heart. Chica was not always like this. There was a time when she was just a small girl with big dreams. She was born to a woman named Adeze. Her father left before she was even born. He heard that Adeze was pregnant and he ran away to another state. He never came back. Adeze tried her best to raise Chica alone. She sold oranges by the roadside. She washed clothes for rich people. She did any work she could find to feed her daughter. When Chica was 7 years old, she started primary school. She was a bright child. Her teacher said she was intelligent. But when Chica was in primary 4, everything changed. Her mother, Adeze, fell sick. It started small, just tiredness and coughing, but it got worse and worse. They had no money for hospital, they had no relatives to help them, and Adeze kept working even when she was sick because they needed money to eat. One morning, when Chica was 11 years old, she woke up and found her mother dead on their mat. Adeze had died in her sleep. Chica cried for 3 days. Some neighbors helped to bury her mother in a cheap grave. After the burial, those same neighbors forgot about the small girl who was now alone in the world. Chica stopped going to school. She had no money for school fees. She had no money for food. She lived in the small room her mother had rented, but she could not pay the rent. At 12 years old, Chica started begging on the streets. At 14, an older girl taught her how to steal from the market. At 16, a woman approached her and told her there was easier money in selling her body to men. Chica was hungry. She was tired of suffering, so she said yes. By the time she was 23, Chica had forgotten the little girl she used to be. She had built walls around her heart. She acted tough because the world had been tough to her. In Asaba, there were many women who pointed fingers at Chica. There was Mrs. Okonkwo, who had 3 daughters. All of them were in university. She always told people how she trained her daughters properly, not like that shameless Chica girl. There was Mrs. Eberi, who owned a big shop in the market. She would shake her head whenever Chica passed by and say, "What a waste. If that girl had just gone to school, she would not be selling her body today." There was Auntie Ngozi, who was a teacher. She used Chica as an example in her moral lessons. "Do you want to end up like Chica?" she would ask her students. "Then respect yourselves. Stay away from boys. Face your education." These women had their own daughters, beautiful girls who went to school every day with clean uniforms and lunch boxes. Girls who were studying to become nurses, teachers, lawyers, and accountants. Their daughters looked at Chica with disgust.
They felt they were better than her because they were educated. They believed that going to school made them more valuable as human beings. One of these girls was called Ineoma. She was Mrs. Okonkwo's first daughter. She was very beautiful and very intelligent. She finished secondary school with excellent results. She went to university and studied accounting. Everyone said Ineoma would be very successful. Another girl was called Chidimma. She was Auntie Ngozi's daughter. She studied nursing. She was quiet and humble, always going to church, always reading her Bible. Everyone said Chidimma would make a good wife. These girls and many others like them looked at their own lives and thanked God they were not like Chica. But none of them knew that life has a way of surprising everyone. It was a hot afternoon in March. Chica was sitting outside Mama Nkechi's shop, smoking a cigarette and watching people pass by. A big black car stopped near the shop. This was not unusual. Many cars came to this area, but something made Chica look up. A man stepped out of the car. He was tall and well-dressed, wearing an expensive shirt and trousers. He looked like a businessman, the kind of man Chica sometimes met in hotels. But this man was not looking for what those other men wanted. He was looking for someone to help him. "Excuse me," he said to Mama Nkechi. "I am looking for number 47 Riverbank Road. Do you know where it is?" Mama Nkechi shook her head. "I don't know that place well. Maybe someone else can help you." The man looked frustrated. He had been driving around for an hour trying to find this address. Chica stood up. "I know where that is," she said. "I can show you." The man looked at Chica. He saw her short skirt and bright makeup. He saw the cigarette in her hand. But he also saw something else, a human being who was offering help. "Thank you," he said. "Can you direct me?" "It's complicated to explain," she said, "but I can show you if you give me a ride there." The man thought for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, get in." Chica got into the car. It was the most expensive car she had ever been in. The seats were leather. The air conditioner was very cold. Everything was clean and smelled nice. As they drove, the man asked her name. "Chica," she said. "I am Emeka," he said. "I came from Lagos for a business meeting." Chica directed him through the streets of Asaba. She knew every corner, every shortcut. In 15 minutes, they reached Riverbank Road. "It's that house there," she pointed, "number 47. "Thank you so much," Emeka said. He reached into his pocket and brought out some money to give her for her help. But Chica looked at the money and something inside her felt tired. She was tired of always taking money from men. For once, she wanted to do something without payment. "No," she said. "Keep it. I just helped you find your way. That's all." Emeka was surprised. He looked at Chica again, this time more carefully. Behind the makeup and tough appearance, he saw something genuine. "At least, let me buy you lunch to say thank you," he said. Chica was about to say no, but her stomach was hungry. She had not eaten since yesterday. "Okay," she said. They went to a small restaurant nearby. Emeka ordered rice and chicken for both of them. As they ate, they talked. Emeka told her about his business. He imported goods from China and sold them all over Nigeria. He told her about Lagos, about his life, about his dreams. Chica listened. She did not talk much about herself. What would she say? That she sold her body for money? That everyone in Asaba called her useless? But Emeka kept asking her questions, gentle questions that showed he really wanted to know her. "Do you have family?" asked Emeka. "No," Chica said quietly. "My mother died when I was 11. I never knew my father." "I'm sorry," Emeka said, and he meant it. That must have been very hard. Something about his kindness broke through Chica's walls. She found herself talking, really talking for the first time in years. She told him about her mother selling oranges, about going to school and having to stop, about being alone in the world. She did not tell him about the life she lived now, but somehow he felt he could see it anyway. When they finished eating, Emeka said, "I have to go to my meeting now, but can I have your phone number? I would like to talk to you again." Chica gave him her number, not believing he would actually call. But that evening, her phone rang. It was Emeka.
Emeka stayed in Asaba for 3 days for his business. Every evening, he called Chica. On the second day, he took her to dinner at a nice hotel. On the third day, before he returned to Lagos, he took her for a drive around the city. They talked about everything. Emeka told her about losing his own parents in a car accident when he was 20. He told her how he had to struggle to build his business from nothing. He told her about loneliness, about not knowing who truly cared about him versus who just wanted his money. Chica listened and realized that even rich people had pain in their hearts. For the first time in her life, a man was treating her like she was worth something beyond her body. Emeka never touched her inappropriately. He never suggested going to a hotel room. He just talked to her like she was a human being with a mind and a heart. When Emeka went back to Lagos, Chica thought that would be the end. Rich men did not really care about street girls like her. But Emeka called her the next day, and the day after that, and every day for the next 2 months. They would talk on the phone for hours. Emeka told her of her day. Chica found herself telling him things she had never told anyone. One day, Emeka said something that shocked her. "Chica, I want to help you change your life. I know the kind of life you are living. You don't have to explain it to me, but I believe you deserve better. I believe you can be more than what life has forced you to become." Chica cried that night. Nobody had ever believed in her before. Emeka started sending her money every month, not for her body, but just to help her. He told her she should stop doing the things she was doing on the streets. He said he would support her while she figured out what she wanted to do with her life. At first, Chica did not believe it would last, but month after month, Emeka kept his word. He sent money, he called every day, he visited Asaba once a month to see her. Slowly, Chica started to change. She stopped going out with different men, she stopped smoking, she started dressing more modestly. She used the money Emeka sent her to rent a better room and buy better clothes. The people in Asaba noticed the change, but they did not know what to make of it. They thought maybe Chica had found one rich man to sponsor her instead of many men. They did not know the truth. After 6 months of friendship, Emeka came to Asaba and took Chica to a quiet restaurant. "Chica," he said, holding her hands across the table, "these past months, getting to know you has been the best thing in my life. I know your past, I know the life you lived, but I also know your heart. I know the person you really are inside, and I have fallen in love with that person." Chica could not believe what she was hearing. "I want to marry you," Emeka said. "I want you to be my wife. I want to give you the life you deserve, the life you should have had if the world had been fair to you." Tears poured down Chica's face. "Emeka, you don't know everything about me. I have done terrible things. I have been with so many men I cannot even count. I have no education. I have nothing to offer you. Your family will never accept me. People will laugh at you for marrying someone like me." "I don't care what people think," Emeka said firmly. "I care about you. Your past does not define you. What defines you is who you choose to be from today forward. And I choose to spend my life with you, if you will have me." Chica said yes, through her tears. When news spread through Asaba that Chica was getting married, and not just to any man, but to a rich businessman from Lagos, the whole city was shocked. Mrs. Okonkwo heard the news at the market and nearly dropped her basket. "Chica, that street girl, getting married? Impossible!" Mrs. Iberi could not believe it. What kind of man would marry someone like that? He must not know about her past. Auntie Ogozi was confused. "But how? My daughter Chidima is educated, has a degree in nursing, and she's still looking for a husband. How can Chica, who did not even finish primary school, find a husband before her?" The women gathered at the market and talked about nothing else for days. Some said Emeka must be under a spell. Some said Chica must have used juju, African magic, to trap him. Some said the marriage would not last because it was not built on a good foundation. But nobody could deny what they saw with their own eyes.
Emeka came to Asaba with his friends and did a proper introduction. He paid Chica's bride price, even though she had no family to receive it. The money went to Mama Nkechi, who had been kind to Chica over the years, to hold for her. Emeka held a small but beautiful wedding at a church in Asaba. He invited everyone, even those who had mocked Chica. He wanted the whole city to see that he was proud to marry her. On the wedding day, Chica looked like a queen. She wore a beautiful white wedding dress. Her makeup was done perfectly. Not the harsh makeup from her street days, but gentle makeup that showed her natural beauty. Her hair was styled elegantly. When she walked into the church, people whispered. Some whispered because they still judged her, but many whispered because they could not believe the transformation. This was not the same rough street girl they knew. This was a woman who glowed with happiness and hope. Emeka stood at the altar waiting for her, and the love in his eyes was clear for everyone to see. The pastor who married them gave a sermon about mercy, about second chances, about how God's grace can change any life. Some people in the congregation felt uncomfortable because the sermon seemed to be directed at them and their judgmental hearts. When the pastor said, "You may kiss your bride," and Emeka kissed Chica, the whole church erupted in applause. Even some of the women who had mocked Chica found themselves clapping, moved by the beautiful ceremony. After the wedding, Chica moved to Lagos with her husband. She started a new life in a big, beautiful house with a man who loved her truly. Emeka enrolled her in adult education classes so she could learn to read and write better. Chica discovered that she was still intelligent, just like her teachers had said when she was a child. She learned quickly. Emeka also set up a small business for her, a boutique where she sold women's clothes. Chica worked hard at the business. She remembered what it felt like to have nothing, so she appreciated everything she had. Meanwhile, back in Asaba, life was not going as planned for many of the girls who thought they were better than Chica. Neoma, Mrs. Okonkwo's daughter, who studied accounting, graduated with good grades, but she could not find a job. The economy was bad. Every company wanted someone with experience, but how could she get experience if no one would hire her? She stayed at home for 2 years after graduation, sending applications everywhere and getting rejection letters. She was now 27 years old, still unemployed, still living with her parents, and still single. The men she met wanted to sleep with her without commitment. The good men were already taken. Her mother, Auntie Ngozi, who had used Chica as a bad example, now cried every night wondering why her educated, prayerful, well-behaved daughter could not find a husband. Many other girls who graduated with degrees in various fields faced similar problems. No jobs, or jobs with salaries too small to live on. No husbands, or men who just wanted to use them without marrying them. The irony was not lost on the people of Asaba. The girl everyone said would amount to nothing was now living in a big house in Lagos, married to a man who loved and provided for her. The girls everyone said would be successful were struggling, still single, still searching for the life they thought education would automatically give them. Mrs. Okonkwo and some of the other women who had judged Chica harshly began to feel ashamed. They realized they had been cruel to a girl who was already suffering. They remembered all the times they had mocked her, laughed at her, and used her as a bad example to their children. One day, Mrs. Okonkwo was at the market and saw Mama Nkechi, who had news about Chica. She came to visit last week, she said, smiling. She brought me gifts and gave me money to thank me for being kind to her over the years. You should see her now. She's so happy, so different. Her husband treats her like a princess. Mrs. Okonkwo felt a pain in her chest. She remembered how she had treated Chica. She went home that day and thought deeply about her life. That evening, she sat down with her daughter, Neoma. "I'm sorry," Mrs. Okonkwo said. "Sorry for what, Mama?" Neoma asked, confused. "I taught you to look down on others. I taught you to feel you were better than people like Chica because you went to school. But education without compassion is useless. Having a degree without having a kind heart means nothing." Mrs. Okonkwo continued, "I am not saying that education is bad. Education is good and important, but I taught you the wrong lesson. I taught you to judge others by their circumstances instead of seeing them as human beings. And now you are struggling not because of any curse, but because life is just difficult for everyone. Neoma listened to her mother and cried. She realized that she had wasted so much energy feeling superior to people like Chica instead of focusing on being a good person herself. Similar conversations were happening in other homes across Asaba. Parents who had used Chica as a negative example were now using her a different kind of example. An example that life is unpredictable, that God's mercy is available to everyone, and that we should never write off any human being as useless.
2 years after her wedding, Chica returned to Asaba for a visit. But she was not alone. She came with Emeka, and they brought something special to the city. They opened a free vocational training center for young girls who had dropped out of school. The center taught skills like sewing, hairdressing, catering, and computer basics. It was Chica's way of giving back. I know what it feels like to have no one and nothing, Chica told the first group of girls who enrolled. I know what it feels like when the world calls you useless. But I want you to know that your past does not determine your future. You can still become something. You can still build a good life. Many of the girls who came to the center were living the same kind of life Chica had lived. Some were on the streets, some were doing bad things to survive. But Chica did not judge them. She helped them. The women of Asaba who had once mocked Chica now looked at her with respect. Some came to apologize for how they had treated her. Chica forgave them all. Mrs. Okonkwo brought Neuma to the center. Can you teach her something? She asked Chica humbly. She has a degree, but no job. Maybe she can learn a skill while waiting for employment. Chica welcomed Neuma warmly, without any bitterness for how Neuma had once looked down on her. Auntie Ngozi also brought Chidinma to meet Chica. I was wrong about you, she said simply. I used you as a bad example to my daughter, but you have become a good example instead. Chica smiled. Life taught me that there is no such thing as a useless person. There are only people who have not yet found their purpose or who have not yet met the right opportunity. Chica's story spread beyond Asaba. It became a story that mothers told their daughters, not as a warning, but as a lesson about several things. First, that we should never judge people by their circumstances. We don't know what pain has driven them to where they are. Chica was not a bad person. She was a hot person trying to survive. Second, that life does not always go according to our plans. Education is good and important, but having a certificate does not guarantee success. And not having a certificate does not mean someone is doomed to failure. Third, that true love looks at the heart, not at the past. Emeka could have chosen any woman. He was rich and could have married someone from a wealthy, educated family. But he chose Chica because he saw who she really was inside. Fourth, that change is possible for anyone. Chica went from being a street girl to being a respected businesswoman and a wife. She proved that people can transform if given a chance and support. Finally, that we should help those who are down instead of mocking them. If the women of Asaba had shown Chica kindness when she was struggling, maybe she would not have suffered for so long. But even in the absence of their kindness, God had a plan for her life. Today, Chica and Emeka have 2 children, 2 girls. They live a good life in Lagos. Chica's boutique business has grown. She now has 3 shops in different parts of Lagos. The vocational training center in Asaba is still running, helping dozens of girls every year. Some of those girls have gone on to start their own businesses. Some have found good husbands. Some have even gone back to school to continue their education. Neoma eventually found a job and is doing well. She learned humility from her struggles and became a better person for it. She is grateful for the lesson life taught her. Chidinma is still nursing at the hospital. She is still single, but she has stopped worrying about it. She learned that a woman's value is not determined by having a husband. She is happy with her life and trusts that if marriage is meant for her, it will come at the right time. As for the women who judged Chica, most of them learned to be more compassionate. They learned that life is a great teacher, and it often teaches through irony.
They learned to keep their mouths closed instead of mocking others, because no one knows what tomorrow will bring. And Chica, she never forgot where she came from. Every time she looks at her children, her husband, and her comfortable life, she remembers the girl who slept in a small room behind Mama Nkechi's shop. She remembers the hunger, the mockery, and the pain. But she also remembers that mercy found her, love found her, hope found her, and she lives every day grateful for the second chance that life gave her. This is the story of Chica, the girl everyone called useless who became useful in ways no one expected. It is a story that reminds us that in life, no condition is permanent. The person you look down on today may be the one you look up to tomorrow. It is a story that tells us to be kind to everyone because everyone is fighting a battle we know nothing about. And most importantly, it is a story that proves God's timing is perfect, even when it seems to make no sense to us. The end.